everyone to episode 3 of the Really Big Fan Podcast. I am your host, ChZuck. I am joined as always by my faithful co-host and wife, ACRONYM.
Hello, hello.
And we are back for our third episode and our first episode with an actual guest.
Yes.
Super excited to talk to our good friend Mike Pandoff of the Two Guys, One Lightsaber podcast about his love of Star Wars. So before we get into that, let's start the morning the way we always start the morning. How are you doing? How's your coffee?
Coffee's doing good. It's kicking in.
It's kicking
hopefully.
In. Excellent.
I'm only allowed to have it up until once this cup is finished. I'm not allowed to have any more. So that's gonna be fun.
That's gonna be rough. That's going to be rough. You usually have so much caffeine in your system. We like to joke that whenever we go someplace and you don't know where you are, you can find at the Starbucks anywhere.
And I don't need the GPS to do it.
Nope. You just know where you can sniff it out. You're like Scooby-Doo. I'm like, find a Starbucks, Amy. Find a Starbucks. So yes, we are back. We're here to have a good time. And we're going to kick the show off the way we always do with some headlines. Actually get my laptop out for this week's headlines because I couldn't memorize everything. So give me just a moment.
Well, while he's pulling that, I will start us off with some
Please
headlines.
Do. Absolutely.
So we have 2 birthdays today in our nerd realm. We've got Tim Curry, which is, not to give too much information about myself, is probably my sexual awakening as Hexus from Fern Gully.
I think a lot of people had a sexual awakening with Fern Gully, not necessarily Hexus.
Yeah. Well, that and, a lot of people just have their sexual awakening with Tim Curry in general because there's,
true.
Rocky Horror Picture Show. I'm sure there's somebody that wants to be with Pennywise. Kiss me, fat boy. So that was the first one. And because we are in a Star Wars episode, it is also Hayden Christensen's birthday. So whether you like Anakin Skywalker or if you don't like sand, you have something to agree with. And last one on my plate was that right before we got started, we were a little late because my ass was looking at the Foo Fighters' new song.
Yep.
So they have a new song out called Rescued. They're also dropping a new album on June 2nd. And the first song, we kind of discussed it before we got started, and kind of sounds like a culmination of every good Foo Fighters track shoved into one.
Yeah.
But we're on different pages on how we feel about it. I think it's awesome.
And I'm it's fine. It's fine. I think it's colored a little bit by, we were talking yesterday about the new Metallica album and how neither one of us really found a lot to enjoy, unfortunately, in the new Metallica album. So maybe that's coloring my perception of it. But I'm listening to it and it's like, you just took parts of like 7 different Foo Fighters songs and made a new Foo Fighters song out of it. Like it almost feels like a song made by algorithm.
Yeah, I could see that definitely, but I do think like for that old school Foo Fighters, like it sounds like classic Foo Fighters to me, which I feel like is why like coming out with a track like that, it's almost like solidifying like we're still here, we can still do this.
Yeah.
And I was discussing with Chuck about that I had listened to The Storyteller, which is Dave Grohl's book.
Sure.
And I'm kind of in the camp of I feel like Dave is doing that I need to keep going or I'm going to stop thing. So,
yeah, I can see that. I think like for me, I always like when they do something that's a little different. Mm-hmm. Like I'm trying to remember which album it was. It might be the album that you actually were saying that like you weren't as big a fan of, but there was, Medicine at Midnight had Cloud Spotter and I swear there was another one. I swear there was like 2 songs on there that I was like, oh, this is a little different. I like this kind of thing. But maybe it's just Cloud Spotter that was a little different that I was like, okay, cool.
I mean, like Shame's kind of different.
Oh, you know what? I'm thinking of Concrete and Gold because La-Di-Da and Make It Right are both like kind of something new. Which is kind of fun.
Well, and I think I misspoke too because Wasting Light was the album I wasn't completely jazzed about because I wasn't really into Rope. White Limo was all right. I really love Alandria.
Right.
These Days is all right. But, like, everything beyond that, like, I'm not into Walk.
And that's what I was saying. Like, that album to me has a perfect side A.
Yeah.
Because like I love White Limo and I love Erlandria and like every song one after another is just like, this is great. This is good stuff.
What's really interesting with our music conversations in this house is you have a couple different things going on. Like you have music writer, music player,
Sure.
as far as the radio stuff,
Yeah.
but also musician, non-musician.
Right.
And then there's different things, like there will be times where we'll be talking about something like another legacy band like Radiohead. And you go into the idea of like, I like when they start to gravitate away from the guitars a teeny bit.
Right.
But there's like a 3-album section that I really like. You hate In Rainbows, and I love In Rainbows.
I don't know that I hate In Rainbows. It's just that it's like, it doesn't do anything for me. I don't know that there's a Radiohead album I hate, but I know that there's definitely albums where I'm like, there's not a lot of guitar in here. There's not like catchy choruses or anything.
Which is your hang up with Smashing Pumpkins. If there's a Smashing Pumpkins album with no guitar, he's not interested.
Smashing Pumpkins is my favorite band, but Billy has not been very guitar based for probably a decade or more now. And you know what? I am old enough to say that I would never tell an artist they're not allowed to do what they want to do. But you know, just because you're doing what you want to do doesn't mean I got to show up if I'm not enjoying myself. So
That makes sense. So as we're talking about music here, we'll segue into, you had a headline about Jack Black?
yes, so we talked last week about the Super Mario Brothers movie. We were both big fans of it, really enjoyed it. Jack Black's song from the Super Mario Brothers movie, Peaches, is in Billboard's Top 100, entered at number 83. It's the first career solo song to appear on the charts, and apparently he is going to be up for an award for it.
Oh, God!
I don't remember which. It's one of like the movie awards where they like best song or
best
something
song.
like that. But yeah, Jack Black's Peaches, which if you haven't seen the video online, is really worth seeing. It's very funny.
Isn't that Jordan Peele that directed that too?
I
Somebody directed that. Somebody of note directed that, and now and the thing is it's catchy. It's not the best song in the world, but it is so catchy that it will not leave your brain. For probably like 4 days, all I could think was peaches, 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 peaches.
And the thing is, because he's the Tenacious D guy, when it was going on in the movie, all I could think was like, how dirty would this song be if it wasn't in the Super Mario Brothers movie?
So it was Cole Bennett, which is Chance the Rapper's younger brother.
Okay.
I believe that is Chance the Rapper's younger brother. He also raps himself.
I also feel really bad for all the parents of children who are going to see the Super Mario Brothers movie, are going to be singing Peaches for, the next couple of months, and then are going to discover Tenacious D at a very young age. Like I was already close to 30 when Tenacious D's first album dropped. So like sitting in the bar and putting Fuck Her Gently on the jukebox and all of us singing along to it was like an adult thing. I can't imagine having like a 14-year-old memorizing the words to that song.
Not to give us our gap in age, Chuck does not look as old as he is.
I do not.
And I am 11 to 12 years younger.
10, thank you.
I am
just a 10.
Is it a full 10?
It's just 10.
How old are you?
It's just 10. We're not talking about this on the air.
We're not talking about
You were 10 years younger than me, but we were both of age, and we met when you were of age. And
yes, I was already well into my 20s.
Exactly.
Anyway, the reason I say that is because Tenacious D hit with us when we were like underclassmen in high school.
Yeah.
And like that comes from Emily, which should not shock you at all. My friend Emily is so goofy. And it was one of those things where I was just like, at the time I think I took myself too seriously when it came to music. When it came to like emo music and everything else, I was like, no, I listen to real music, because I had this thing, a hang up about The Darkness. I thought The Darkness was a fake band, and everybody was like, no, The Darkness is the shit, and I'm like, no, they're just shit. I have since changed my stance on this. I love The Darkness now, but.
Yeah, so Jack Black, due to get himself a solo award for some singing. Actually, I remember when it happened in the movie, I was like, well, if you get Jack Black, you got to give him a song.
Yeah,
right?
absolutely.
You know he's a good singer.
And his outfit in the video is awesome. He's even got an eyeliner. He's like going full Jack Black on the piano, and it's... Mwah. Love that man.
How old is Jack Black?
I don't know, but he is very prolific on TikTok, or at least he was during the pandemic. I have seen that man do so many weird things just wearing his underpants.
It's true. No, he definitely was a student of like
Chris Farley.
Chris Farley's physical comedy. Jack Black is 53.
53 years old.
53.
He is so goofy too. So yeah, if you haven't seen the Mario movie, go see it yet. I know we briefly discussed it on one of your streams while you were playing Zelda about the audio cues and how Nintendo is so good at making sounds and music that sticks with you.
Nintendo ticks a lot of boxes when it comes to making video games, which is why they're so successful that are universal. But I think one of those boxes that people don't talk about enough is their sound production and how between sound effects and music cues that they have so many franchises that have so much sound effects and music cues that are now universal to all of us. Like all of us know if you hear the Yoshi voice or if you hear the coin from Super Mario Brothers, or even some of the music drops from Legend of Zelda, like they used in Scott Pilgrim.
Yeah.
When at the beginning, like what that's from, and like what it indicates, kind of thing, and that's always fun.
When we were talking about the Nintendo part of it, and it was like even some of the other games that were created under other groups like Rareware, like I feel like I know those noises really well.
Yeah.
When it comes from like Donkey Kong and Banjo Kazooie and all that.
Right. It makes me wonder when a third party does take over a Nintendo property, how involved Nintendo is in specific parts of making that game. If they are like really involved in the music and the sound production, and they're like, nope, that's not iconic enough yet. We need something a little bit like what if we do something like this, and then they bust out something that's like,
and then they give you the best underwater level music of all time. Right. Yes.
Right. Speaking of Nintendo, the other news story I got here for you is from Japan. It's about the Pokemon company who just dropped a new set on April 14th that is it's called Clay Burst and Snow Hazard. So it's kind of like the video games where there's like essentially two sets, and you get packs of either set and have some fascinating and highly expensive cards already in them. And the Pokemon company says that they are completely sold out of cards right now. They have to go back to the printer and print more of these cards because over in Japan it is so huge, and I'm sure people are importing it as well.
Yeah.
But according to this article I've got on Kotaku here, there's initial quotes for cases of Clay Burst and Snow Hazard are going for $3,600.
Yikes.
And there are some, like I said, there's some crazy cards in here, like a special illustration rare card, which a YouTuber says is the most expensive card they've basically ever seen. So
like half of that order went to Logan Paul's
Logan
house.
Paul just trying to get the most expensive so he can wear it when he goes to the WWE ring.
Yep. With his photoshopped re-signing photo.
Yeah, exactly.
Hey, word to the wise, Logan Paul. Edit the bottle to not say blue raspberry if you're going to change the color of the bottle. Just throwing that out there. Because it's glaring.
I don't understand what that's a reference
so
to.
For WWE, Logan Paul announced that I re-signed or whatever. He edited the photo or had somebody on his team edit the photo from his first signing.
Okay.
And just changed the color of his jacket and the bottle of his energy drink or whatever the hell that is.
Right.
But the person that photoshopped the photo and changed the colors from him wearing a blue jacket and the blue bottle, changing it to a yellow bottle and a yellow jacket, did not clear off the part that says blue raspberry. There's no yellow blue raspberry in that drink.
Oh, okay.
So the person that photoshopped it left it there, and then he got called out, and he's like, I didn't Photoshop it. See, Stephanie, it wasn't there the first time.
Something tells me they are underpaid and was having a good time making Logan Paul eat shit.
I hate Logan Paul so much.
All right, well, that's going to cover our headlines for this episode of... I almost said the old show's name. This episode of the Really Big Fan Podcast.
It's not the first time you do that.
Right. So we're going to come back in just a minute with our interview with our special guest, Mike Pandoff. He is a huge Star Wars fan, as indicated by his co-hosting of a podcast known as Two Guys, One Lightsaber. So
which is not a porn.
Not a porn. We're going to talk to him about his love of Clone Wars and the Star Wars franchise in general when the Really Big Fan Podcast returns. Welcome back to the Really Big Fan Podcast. We've got our first guest for the podcast here in our third episode. Today, we're going to be talking about one half of the Two Guys, One Lightsaber podcast, and that is our buddy, our longtime friend, Mr. Mike Pandoff. Mike, how are you today?
I'm doing great, guys. I was joking with you yesterday. I'm like, "Are you sure you want me on? Are you sure?" Because
you've had both of us.
Was so great. I know.
You've had both of us on your podcast multiple times, and I didn't want you to find out we had a new podcast and didn't have you on first.
Well, I appreciate it. You know,
I was like, no, we have to have Mike first. Mike has like been through all of this with us.
Honestly, my mediocre podcast would not exist probably if it wasn't for the three of us becoming friends. I give you guys 100% credit for that because Chuck let me come on and I still have a good time. Our Star Wars episode is still one of my favorite ones I would go back and listen to see where I could take notes from of where I've grown as a podcaster. So
sure,
I'm very thankful for you guys for everything you've done for me. It's been very nice. And
I would say download that while you can still get it because who knows when they're going to take it down. But we wanted to have you on because, like I said, you've got your own podcast about Star Wars, and I figured it would be appropriate given the timing of all the trailers we got to see at Celebration, given the fact that as we record this, there is one more episode of The Mandalorian, and given the fact that you do a Star Wars podcast, that we talk to you about your love of Star Wars, Mike. Let's start at the very beginning. What is your first memory of Star Wars?
Oh man, I love these kind of questions. My favorite thing was, and it's still ingrained in my brain. I don't know when I started doing it, but like when you ask me, like, when did you watch first Star Wars? I used to have these plastic chairs that if you flip them down, they kind of look like, flying an airplane. And that's just my memory growing up. Like whenever Luke would do that trench run, I would throw this chair down at this angle to make it feel like I was flying something. And then we got, a computer joystick. So I would put that between my legs.
Yep.
And I would put on this old football helmet to make it like that's just my love of Star Wars, man. Like, I don't know the first time I watched it. I've just always known it. And that's the perk of having a brother 10 years older than you. He introduces you to that and then Saving Private Ryan. You're good to go.
There's a vast gulf between Saving Private Ryan and Star Wars.
Right.
Oh, I know. He went from 14 to 18, Chuck. So I was 8.
Yeah.
So, well, let's watch this. No, I'm kidding. But it's just one of those things like, I'm so glad that there was like, that 10-year gap between Revenge and then, you just had Clone Wars. And it's really cool now seeing people that grew up loving it, like Filoni and Favreau, especially Jon Favreau, making what we love and doing, I think, an excellent job of it. And, it's been missteps, but I'm appreciative of Star Wars, okay?
Sure.
If Marvel didn't exist, I don't know what I would have been watching. Probably a lot more Scorsese movies growing up in Tarantino. But
who knows what kind of degenerate you would be now? It was just nothing but Scorsese and Tarantino.
A little Kevin Smith in between that too.
You get some Lord of the Rings in there. You like Lord of the Rings too.
I've actually never seen Return of the King all the way through. I always stop at Twin Towers. I've never finished Lord of the Rings. It's too tough.
Oh no, you like Game of Thrones.
Game of Thrones.
That's what
different
it
ball
is.
game.
I got it mixed up.
I was going to say maybe it's like how you watch Hannibal, that he only watches the first 2 movies and refuses to watch the third.
I refuse to watch the masterpiece of like one of the greatest trilogies of all time. Yeah,
right. So what was your first Star Wars movie? Was it the original 1977 Star Wars?
Yeah, I grew up in a house. Like I said, I'm so thankful for being an accident baby. I grew up with I saw the version. I grew up with the version where Han shot first. I had that old of a set because my brother was born in '84. So, and then I remember having the gold edition where, they added all this garbage CGI and Tatooine left Empire alone, except for making Cloud City more beautiful. So that's what I kind of grew up on. Was that. And then also the one where George Lucas did this weird British interview before each movie where he'd be like, it's poetry, it's supposed to rhyme. And that's what I kind of grew up with that kind of stuff. And it was cool. And then my first one in theater was my late grandma, Lori. She took me to see Phantom Menace in the theater, and I was like 4 at the time. One of the coolest things I've ever seen, a Star Wars movie that good.
You had a much better first Star Wars in the theater than I did. My first Star Wars in the theater, similarly, when I was probably about 4 years old, was Empire Strikes Back, and I didn't even get to Yoda. Dagobah scared the hell out of me as a child.
Honestly, I would love to reset my brain to like, I don't know, like if you could, I'd be more intrigued to see what I'd feel like about it, like when I was 8 and not 4, because 4 is just cool, it's space wizards with swords.
Right.
That's why, like, April 28th, they're re-releasing the 40th, re-releasing Return of the Jedi for the 40th anniversary, and I'm very curious to see. I want to see it. I'm sorry.
Yeah, no, I do too. I'm totally with you there.
And that poster is fire.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so good. But yeah, it's just I don't know. That's why Star Wars means so much to me. Like taking my brother to go see Force Awakens on premiere night at the 7:00 showing the night before it releases, and he's just like in awe of everything. You guys were there for Rise of Skywalker too. Did you meet my brother that day?
I think so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
so I got to see the whole sequel trilogy with my brother too. I took him I would see it at the Rift, but like Rogue One and Last Jedi we saw together. I'm like, yeah, I want to see this with you, and it was really cool doing that together. And he will never live it down. Like, yeah, my brother took me. Mainly because someone tried shitting on Force Awakens, and he was so happy for it. He's like, they're like, it's just a New Hope remake. He's like, what's wrong with that? Enjoy the movie. It's Star Wars. And that's a Marine screaming at like some nerd. And I was just like, oh gosh.
Well, that's the argument, is that it's like there's some people that it's like they watch Star Wars and then they're mad about the outcome so much, where they have such high opinions for what they think Star Wars is supposed to be. But in turn, there's like a group of us that's just like, I just want more Star Wars. There's nothing wrong with more Star Wars,
right?
No, I agree with that 100%. And that's why, like, at a certain degree, like, I kind of hit you up, and I still kind of want to do, like, a podcast where I strictly talk about movies that are 5 years old or older, because I'm getting so sick of the constant criticism of Star Wars. I don't want to talk about it anymore. I kind of want to put myself in my own bubble and just be, like, away from it all. But then what happened last night in Mandalorian episode, I've been happy all day. I literally, because the TikToks have been fire for that moment, and I'm just so happy with it. And then people are hating. I'm like, I'm sorry. Bo-Katan is one of my favorite effing Mandalorians I've ever watched. If you watch Clone Wars and Rebels, and you've been a Filoni kid or a person, this is the ultimate payoff for you right now, because we're about to get live action Rebels. That is so cool. And Filoni is the heir to the throne. He is Thrawn. He is heir to the Empire himself.
Now, aren't they rumoring that he's taking over instead of Kathleen Kennedy?
I don't want to, like, as long as I kind of want him just to be Kevin Feige. Hopefully, maybe like, remember Alderaan. The thing is, I hope that kind of like what they're doing at HBO, actually. If he's in charge of creative and is like, hey, I set the tone for everything, and especially with them setting up this timeline at Celebration, where we got clear eras and you can tell one-off stories. Yeah, let him be in charge of that kind of stuff. Financially, no, I know he doesn't have that kind of like level of experience. Now, if you want to give that to Favreau, let them split it. We just said, because even though the rumors had been a lot that Favreau and Kathleen Kennedy were crashing, shocker. No disrespect to her, woman literally has accomplished so much. I think she just has fumbled the ball here a lot. If that's true, then it kind of sucks, and you kind of have seen that in Mandalorian. So it would be cool to see them take over together. They seem to have a great relationship.
How do you feel about this whole thing where they're kind of going like, okay, well, we're not going to focus as much on Din as we are just the Mandalorians as a whole now?
Okay, you guys are going to think awesome being single, bachelor. I've been, I think it was like after episode 2, and I started hearing the complaints, because I hate the runtime of Mandalorian. Yeah, for like a week, I binge watched Mandalorian 1, 2, and then the Book of Boba Fett episodes, and it all lines up. Everyone's like, Din hasn't had character development. You've had almost 20 episodes of character development. Absolutely. We know who Din Djarin is. He's a guy who got killed, or whose family got killed in front of him during Clone Wars. He got found by foundlings. He has purpose now. There's more to grow on him with Grogu as Grogu grows. Oh, Grogu hasn't had development at all this season. He's been training as Mandalorian, learning lore, remembering his past, and also beat Val Vizsla's kid in combat once he realized, I know what I got to do. And them adding this little voice mechanic for him, I'm seeing more character growth than I'm sorry, guys. This ain't Game of Thrones, but it does suck. Oh, sorry.
No,
you're good.
I was just laughing. It's like now they've given Grogu the character growth of saying yes and no.
Yeah, but it's just like the mannerisms of like how he uses it. Like, you know what I'm saying? It's kind of like Breaking Bad with the bell thing.
Mhm.
Like eventually it's gonna be like, so 2 yeses, Grogu, means you can use a sword with that?
Right.
Yes.
So how
yeah.
far does your Star Wars fandom go? Because Star Wars is a huge franchise. They've got comic books, they've got Lego sets, they've got action figures, obviously, your video games.
I've played multiple video games. The comics you kind of ruined for me, Chuck, because you were right. No, you were like Pandoff. They're just gonna retcon it. Like they're just gonna change this. Minus the Darth Vader comic line, I don't care about anything because they literally have retcon stuff like Ahsoka's backstory of like how she got her lightsabers. That's been changed multiple times. So I don't care about the books. All that stuff is constantly getting changed. But yeah, video games like Jedi Survivor, I'm so psyched for. That first game, Jedi Fallen Order, I got it right when the pandemic started, and that saved about 3 weeks of me not being bored. Because I think I was like 86% complete, like getting every trophy on my first playthrough because I was like, stretch it out. And it's a great storyline. Rebel Assault 2 on PS1, Chuck, where it came with 2 discs. I don't know if you remember that game. It would go from like first person cockpit view, and then like, you know, you get shot down and all you're doing is standing behind like walls and you got to poke out and shoot stormtroopers and keep going.
Interesting.
It was a really fun game. There was like, I think that was a really fun one. My brother beat it and I don't know how.
I love that Battlefront 2 is still like, I still see TikTok videos of people doing stuff in Battlefront 2, and I love that game is still active as old as it is, because that to me that's my perfect Star Wars video game experience.
I actually love that game.
Is playing Battlefront 2.
Yeah.
You guys are jealous because you were born into the Battlefront. You got to go into it. I was raised in the Battlefront mainly because the DLCs took forever and you guys got everything for free. I think
Nope, it's true. It's the same thing.
Really sucked.
It's the same thing that's going to happen now with the Marvel Avengers game, is that like they just unlocked everything for people because they're knocking down the servers in the fall.
That's so crappy. Like, I'm surprised.
Like the downloadable content characters, all the costumes, all of it is all just like, here you go. We're closing up shop in about 6 months, so here's everything.
See, you had to like work for it when we had it on the PlayStation Plus account. Like you had to like work your way into getting a character.
Yeah, kind of.
Yeah, there was still like that element of
like
it.
The characters came for free, but in order to get like different costumes, you would have to like either you'd have to spend real people money, or you'd have to grind to get enough points to get the like Captain America Endgame costume. And now they just all come for free.
Oh no, I meant for the Star Wars one.
Oh, it's loot box.
When it was on PlayStation Plus, you were like, you would have to play a level to get access to a new player, and it was like I had to grind a couple levels to get to the part where like they have like a Han Solo and Chewbacca and everything else. But I really liked playing that when we had it connected online.
Mm-hmm.
But like now we just have a disc of it.
Yeah.
And just been playing it offline, and I love it. It's a matter of I need to get better at first person shooter style stuff. I'm really bad at it.
Yeah, that game was very excellent with game. Oh, once they added like Geonosis and all that, it just sucked that they ended it in March 2020, and there could have been so much more. The PC mods on YouTube, go look them up. There's some great ones. There's people when they added Jango Fett, a lot of Clone War era characters. It's been great.
Yeah, I've been saying for probably the last couple of years since I've been playing it that like you could right now drop a Mandalorian skin for Boba Fett and a Grogu skin for Yoda and charge $20, and like I'd pay it.
Dude, I don't get how like in the first game, granted it had no story campaign and like it was just very gimmicky. It wasn't as great the 2015 Battlefront. But you know what I miss, especially after watching Andor? I'm like, I miss Krennic in the game. Like they had villains like that in the first one.
Yeah.
And then like I'd love to play as Cassian Andor because I don't know if you guys did you guys ever watch Andor?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah.
Loved it.
That I think spoiled Star Wars fans, because Tony Gilroy is not a Star Wars fan. He's like, oh, let me make Born Supremacy for you in Star Wars. Enjoy.
Yeah, no, it was really is a solid story writing, and I feel like there's so much of it, like not to tread on like the political, but like there's so much of it that is relatable in certain areas to the point of where it was like really poignant, and so it's like it doesn't feel like as much of like a soft Star Wars story versus like even with Kenobi, like there were little inferences to that, but like Andor feels like so different compared to everything else. And like I love Luthen and everybody. Like there were so many dynamic characters in that. Oh, so good.
I think a big part of it is that it's not overrun with Jedi.
That too.
I think that the fact that you're dealing with regular people in the universe and how they have to get by has a lot to do with like you're kind of taking some of the magic, the sorcery out of the universe a little bit by focusing on just normal people.
But that's kind of like the argument sometimes, isn't it, Mike? Like everybody will be like, well, not every story has to be Skywalker centric.
That is a growing, not even Skywalker centric. It's like a lot of people do, and I am kind of part of that. That's why I love Mandalorians ever since Knights of the Republic. So that's why this has appealed to me with that. And then Andor, it's so boots to the ground feeling. It like Mon Mothma, guys. She literally just said many Bothans died for this information, and now she was killing it like Game of Thrones. That was so much Game of Thrones political. Just the way she acted, like she got cast in a deleted scene 18 years ago, and then she put on Emmy Award working. That means George Lucas did see something. He might have sucked at directing actors, but he knew how to find them. It's really incredible. And Skarsgård, that when I was like taking notes and getting pop-ups ready in case you guys ask me stuff, I wanted to hype myself up. So I watched Vizsla, and then I watched the Andor speech of One Way Out.
Yep.
Yeah.
And I watched Andor's mom's speech, which is my favorite.
Good. I've been telling people that I want to be made into a brig and a brick that can be clock a fascist with it, and that's my burial wishes.
So Mike, he's that good of an actor should not be in that kind of show. We got so spoiled. We got so effing spoiled.
His monologue about like I've given everything is one of my favorite moments of it. I watched it. That's one I've repeatedly watched a couple times already.
I'm honestly debating getting that as like a part of it. Like, my friend has always he wants to do a Star Wars tattoo on me, and that like I burn my life so another can see the sun. That line, I want that under my Star Wars tattoo.
Oh, that'd be cool.
So, Mike, we will absolutely be having you on the show probably multiple times to really dig deep into different Star Wars, whether it's characters or movies or games or whatever like that.
Yeah.
But I got a couple more questions just in the general before we let you go. First of all, I'm curious. This is always interesting to me. What was Star Wars to you first? Was it like an action figure or was it a movie?
Movie. Definitely.
Like, did you have Star Wars figures before you saw a movie when you were young?
I mean, my brother like had some that I couldn't touch because they were collector items, but like I remember we had a snow speeder and I threw it down on a pool table, like, where like the balls come in.
Yep.
And the pool table got thrown out and I lost my snow speeder.
Oh, no.
But no, it's mainly the movies. Without Star Wars, I don't think I'd be this big of a TV movie nerd. Like, Star Wars is the birthplace of my fandom. You guys know me. I post everything. I watch everything. I watch it all.
Well, and that's another question I had for you. Actually, like when we talked last week about Tony Hawk, was there ever a point where Star Wars lost you for a little bit? Was there ever a point where your fandom kind of waned a little bit and then you came back? Or have you always just constantly Star Wars is your thing?
It definitely waned after episode 3. We didn't have cable in my room growing up, so like I didn't know Clone Wars was a thing until about 2011 because I heard the rumors of Darth Maul coming back, and I'm like, wait a second, and it's Sam Witwer, who is part of my favorite like arcade Jedi game, Force Unleashed. Okay, cool. And then they dropped it on Netflix, and I binge watched Clone Wars not in order, and then I did it in order, and I'm like, let's go. This is amazing. Like, and then Lucas bought it. So that's kind of like where I joke around with you. Superhero movies filled that void for me.
Yeah.
And then it's kind of funny, a year after like Star Wars stopped getting made, I watched The Departed at like 13. Or like, you know what I'm saying? So I was saying like, yeah, without Star Wars, I don't think I would be this big of a movie guy.
I think what I'm gleaning from this particular conversation is that we're all very lucky you didn't go into a life of crime, and we have Star Wars to thank for it.
Well, I don't know. I probably would have played more sports. Let's be honest. If running a lightsaber in the backyard, maybe I would have chucked the football a little bit more, thrown a baseball,
or you would have gone into being a statey.
Wow. Jeez. But real quick before you guys let me go, can we get a little spoilers with The Mandalorian, real quick? Or
yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Let's talk. I mean, obviously, if you're listening to the podcast here, you're watching us on YouTube. You definitely, if you haven't caught up to at least the second to last episode of Mandalorian, you're definitely going to want to, like, I don't know, fast forward past this bit, or maybe turn the audio down for like the next 5 minutes or so. All right, Mike, go.
Okay, so first of all, do you guys feel lost with all these new characters like Bo-Katan or like Cad Bane and all this stuff? Like, do you guys feel like you know what's going on with the Mandalorian culture?
I mean, like, we don't know anything around, like, anything with, like, Clone Wars or any of the shows that they were in the animated series.
Okay.
I know that at one point you sent me a Cad Bane video that I watched, so that part made sense to me. But I don't know much about Bo-Katan in general.
So you kind of like, you like her now, like her character arc?
Yeah, I like her. I think she's cool. I think I like her more, not to be blasphemous, but I think I like her more than what I've seen of Ahsoka so far.
Yeah, you've had like an episode and a half of Ahsoka. So you don't.
Yeah,
really,
I've only gotten really like live action Ahsoka. I don't know anything about.
Just watch the last 4 episodes of. Just watch Rebels. That's all you guys really need to watch.
Hey, I watched like the first season of Rebels when it was on TV.
Some.
So every time one of them pops up in a trailer or something like that, I'm like, oh my god, it's Chopper.
Sabine looks amazing. But with Paz Vizsla going down, were you guys marking out with like I thought he was just gonna instantly get gunned down by all of them while you're shooting? That is one of the coolest Star Wars moments I've seen in the past 5 effing years.
When he closed the door, I said, "Sir, you have a son."
Yeah.
What are you doing?
Because of
Chuck.
Him being a Mandalorian, though, I think it's more of him. He's the enforcer of the clan. Yeah. It's his duty. It's his way. He puts them before his son. So it is kind of like the thing.
Well, and his family too was part of like the royal, lineage.
First Jedi.
The
first and only Jedi. The descendants of the Darksaber. So him going out, I thought, well, okay, he's just gonna get the blaster overheating, him smacking it. And the Praetorian guards, I'm like,
it bothers me that his Gatling gun does not rotate.
Right. I know. It would have looked so cool, like Jesse Ventura and Predator. It would have been awesome.
Yeah. Why does he have a Gatling gun with 3 barrels if it's not going to rotate?
Agreed.
There was that him getting stabbed by those guards. I was like, that was brutal.
That was
rough. It could have just been a quick, but there's a
like no brutality. I was like, oof.
So there's 2 crazy theories going around because the episode was titled The Spies.
Yeah.
Fuck the armorer. That's a rumor going on because her and Moff Gideon both had spikes, which means the last time they had him, those were Mandalorians who helped Darth Maul take over Mandalore and followed him. And a lot of them ended up joining the Empire after his rule was quick and short, but cool as hell.
Oh.
Great comic. And then also, I wonder if they're saying Boba Fett's coming back. So I'm very curious about how Boba Fett's going to get played into this.
When they named the episode The Spies, I expected the entire episode. I expected a double cross. I expected either the Bo-Katan's former crew that are now her crew again. I expected either them to double cross them and be the ones that had busted out the big bad, or I even not having the reference you do of Clone Wars for Bo-Katan. I don't even trust her.
Yeah, that's been a thing. Like not trusting her. I didn't trust the guys that kind of looked like pirates at first.
I agree.
Like they were freaking me out.
Fun fact: one of those guys is Skinny Pete from Breaking Bad.
Oh yeah,
the one who has the droid's head on.
I didn't realize that.
I didn't either.
I love how those guys are such nerds. Because wasn't the other guy that played the other guy in that twosome in the Final Fantasy.
He was a voice in the Final Fantasy remake. Yep.
So cool. But I can't wait to talk about, like, hopefully maybe we can talk about the season as a whole, because this is the perfect example of let Dave Filoni cook. I know. Yeah. This man has consumed 8 seasons of television. No, 10 seasons of television combined in my life. Let the man cook. And he was a director on Avatar.
I certainly agree, because like this season feels different than the other seasons, but like I don't hate it, not in a bad way. Like you were saying, there's a lot of characters in this season of The Mandalorian, but they're all it's not like none of them are shallow. Like they all get moments where you see development, and where you see that they're fully developed. They're full characters. They're not just like 1 or 2 lines and then off screen for the rest of it, with the exception of maybe Sasha Banks.
They finally gave Mercedes a line.
I can't wait. One cool thing they do, especially with the ones who don't take off the helmet, I like them based off their colors. And I'm like, no, like the guy who led the assault in episode 4 with I call him white stripe blue helmet, the one who's calling out all the orders. I'm like, that guy, that's a leader. Follow that man. I like him.
I totally was feeling the thing about the armor, though. Like, she seems fishy to me.
There's something going on here. Like,
like even her taking that other group back to the fleet. Like, now she's got a plane. She's gone back up to the main thing. Who's to say she doesn't change?
What if all those pirates she took up there are spies with her, and they just take over the light cruiser? Second, I told Chuck I was so freaked out that like the whole fleet was already going to be under attack.
That too.
And then third, who else knows how to make Beskar armor? It's not easy to make. It's not just because Beskar melted. There's a certain way to craft it. So,
right. And like they were going down there to check on the forge. It's like, why would she leave when they're checking on the forge?
Yeah, why would she
be the one that knows what to do?
Yeah, like why wouldn't she ask for volunteers to take the injured back on the ship?
Yeah.
But the thing is though, not everyone could be a pilot. I've thought about that as well, because they don't have ships. This is the biggest fleet they have. So
Can you imagine living in the Star Wars universe but not being able to pilot?
Oh my God, I would have to learn immediately.
It's even worse than people that don't know how to drive in our universe. Right? Like you can't pilot, you can't go off world. What is
and on that note, my spaceship would definitely be Din's N1 space fighter, which is like one of my favorite starships outside of the A-wing. I don't know why. It just looks like a World War II B2 to me. Like it looked perfect. But
Mike, thanks so much for coming on the show. We will have you back in the future here. Before we let you go, plug your podcast.
Be sure to follow us at 2 Guys 1 Lightsaber at Spotify, Apple, or anywhere else. We are trying to start our Instagram account as well, so you can follow us at 2 Guys 1 Lightsaber as well. Or if you have any fan theory questions or ideas about Mandalorian or anything else Star Wars, DC, and Marvel as well, be sure to hit us up at 2 Guys 1 Lightsaber at gmail.com as well.
All right, Mike, we will talk to you soon, and we're coming back with more of the Really Big Fan podcast right after this. We're back with the Really Big Fan podcast. Thanks again to Mike for joining us to talk about Star Wars. I'm sure we'll dig even deeper in the coming months and episodes with Mike about probably Clone Wars. He knows a lot about Clone Wars. Eventually, he'll talk us into watching it.
Yeah, right. I mean, he did sort of get me that one time. He had me watch like a supercut of like the important stuff about Cad Bane, so I knew what was going on.
Right.
So there's that.
So yeah, it is Acronym and ChZuck here for the final segment of the Really Big Fan podcast. And as always, our final segment is all about our serotonin boost. I always forget. I want to say it's like the melatonin boost.
Yeah, that would mean
but
we're sleepy.
That's sleepy.
I mean, but you are very sleepy.
I'm very sleepy. I need a nap, and it's only like noon. So yeah, for our serotonin boost this week, I'd like to talk about a movie that we went and saw on Sunday. We have seen more movies in the last month than I think we've seen in a year.
Yeah.
But I'm enjoying them, and there's been a lot of really fun excuses to go to the movies. Last Sunday, we went and saw one of my favorites, Nicolas Cage, in Renfield, and great time. Absolutely great time. We had the theater, I think it was like, there was the 4 of us, and then there was like maybe 5 other people in the whole theater.
Yeah.
So like when stuff goes down, when very explosive kind of action sequences happen, had no qualms about hooting and hollering and having a good time.
Oh yeah, yeah. We couldn't contain it. There was a lot of jokes that were very centric to millennials that were punk. I'll leave it at that so I don't spoil it.
There's a shout out to local ska band Mustard Plug.
Yeah, there we go.
In the beginning, I thought that was great.
And Nicolas Cage is Nicolas Cage. Even though I will say this, like, if you expect to see Nicolas Cage on screen 90% of the time, that is not what you're signing up for. Which I thought was interesting in the beginning. I was kind of like, this is weird. This is more focused on Renfield.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Itself.
Yeah.
Like, I kind of thought like that they would give Nicolas Cage more screen time than him, despite it being called that. But I was pleasantly surprised. Also, Awkwafina is great in anything that she does.
She has been really good between Shang-Chi and now this movie. She's been absolutely fantastic.
We still need to watch Ocean's 8. She's also in that.
Yeah, I would watch that. That would be pretty good.
Definitely.
It's directed by Chris McKay, who did the Lego Batman movie and Lego Batman 2 and the Lego movie, I guess. And that's about it. Everything. And then he worked with Adult Swim on a bunch of stuff, and it kind of shows.
Yeah, it definitely does. And we have this theory that I say we, but it was you that said it, of Nicolas Cage did this just because somehow Taika Waititi told him he couldn't be in What We Do in the Shadows until he played an actual vampire. So that's why this movie happened. That's not real, but we're just saying that's the reason.
That's my theory, is that Nicolas Cage really wants to be in What We Do in the Shadows after he saw the episode in the first season where there were all the vampires. And he called Taika and Jermaine, and they were like, but you haven't played a vampire. He's like, I was in Vampire's Kiss. It's like, yeah, but you were just crazy. You weren't an actual vampire. So then he got Robert Kirkman on the phone, who's an executive producer of this movie, and was like, I need you to spend some of that Walking Dead money on a movie to make me into Dracula.
And here we are.
He, like, the credits too, they recreate some like classic Dracula scenes with Nicolas Cage, and he's just like perfect.
So great.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of needle drops.
There are, and they were really fun.
Yeah, and they were, like, not abrasive once again. Like, that's a big thing about needle drops for me. Like, if it seems like it's too abrasive, then it takes you out of the scene.
Sure.
But I felt like all of that worked out real well.
No, I would highly recommend it. It is Army of Darkness level of both violent and funny.
Yeah, like, there's gore, but it's not gross.
And that's what I was saying when we were leaving the theater, is that it's funny to me how the movie sets itself up to be a cartoonish type of reality, so that when you do get to the gore sequences, you're not grossed out or like overwhelmed with the amount of violence. You're more like it's like watching like the Kick-Ass movies or something.
Yeah.
Like you've been pre-screened to like, this is going to be cartoonish and ridiculous.
Yeah, I
so
think
that when like people get their arms ripped off or get a table put through them, you're like, ha ha.
Yeah, there was a lot of me going, oh,
yeah,
in the theater.
Very Looney Tunes quality violence. So yeah, Renfield is a good time, and it's been a good time at the movies between Mario and Renfield. I hear the D&D movie is fantastic.
Yeah.
So
and you're gonna go see what with Sean?
He wants to go see the new Evil Dead movie, and I don't know if I can handle it. So we'll see. It's been a while since I've seen like a down deep horror movie. Like I did watch the first of this new versions of Evil Dead, and I remember seeing that in the trailer, like the girl takes a knife to her tongue and splits it, and I was like, nope, I'm done. I don't want any of that. And then like there's some like eyeball gore or something in the trailer for this one, and I was like, I don't know if I can handle this one.
Y'all are on your own with that. I'm good. My serotonin boost for the week, and I asked before I did this because I was like, is that too much? But my serotonin boost for the week is it's 420 tomorrow.
Yeah.
Like I've got lots of stuff I'm doing, and I'm pretty excited about it. There's definitely going to be some like different for the locals around here. There's definitely going to be parties at pretty much every dispensary. So if you want to get some swag, some freebies, see some cool people, pop up at your nearest dispensary and see if something's going on, because there's quite a bit happening. There's even events going on at the Peterborough, the Tangent. Like at nighttime, there's a lot.
I could have swore that the Hash Bash was like a 420 event.
It is, but they always do it the first weekend of April.
That's what I'm saying. Like, did they move it to the first weekend of April once everything got kind of legalized here?
No, it actually there was
there?
there was a specific date in which they always protested. But when they started doing it on the specific date, they realized the date would move. Like so it was happening in the middle of the week, so that nobody was coming to the thing.
First weekend.
So
in
they
April.
went first weekend in April. Since I think like the 80s or something like that.
So
and it's been there ever since.
They decided business in the front, party in the back.
Pretty much, yeah.
You
Well, you had
protest
to make
in the
sure...
beginning of April, and then a couple weeks later you celebrate that
Exactly.
you didn't get arrested.
Well, and if you think too, I mean, I don't know what the origin story necessarily is of the numbers 420, surprisingly. Like, I feel like most stoners don't.
Yeah,
but
I don't know.
For that specifically in Michigan, Hash Bash is first and foremost a protest, and then they have like the Monroe Street Fair, which is like the party part of it. And I feel like if you did the protesting on 420, you would lose a lot of those people that are going to get those deals as well. But nobody expected us to get to this point. Like, everybody hoped that we would have legalization, but we didn't get to a point where like we knew it was happening. Like, when I first went to Hash Bash, I was like 11, so I wouldn't have known any of this was coming.
Right.
But as time goes on and we started to get, medically legal and now recreationally legal, I feel like it would be more like the Black Friday scenario where everybody would be like, it's cool that there's a protest going on, but we're going to go get the deals and the grab bags and stuff. So it makes more sense that they keep it where it is and not try to put it as a 420 party, because I think you also lose that message of it being a protest. You already kind of get that with some people where they just go to the Monroe Street Fair and they don't listen to the, for lack of a better term, old heads talk about the struggle it took to get here.
Right.
So that's my little PSA for the day on all of that. I didn't mean to get so technical.
If you'd like to know more about
the
cannabis industry.
Yes, I am at Acronym Is everywhere.
Yep.
And not Acronym Is everywhere, but Acronym Is on all social platforms.
There you go.
And I share a lot of that type of content, promotional stuff, what things I like, what products I like, that sort of thing. And try to, normalize the stigma, because at the end of the day, like, if I were talking about this right now and I were smoking, we'd probably be in jeopardy of losing the channel. And that's what a lot of things are when it comes to cannabis overall. So I'm lucky that, I had to make a new account. I did get dinged once and lost all of my followers and had to start over. But hopefully in a couple years, it won't be as big of a deal, or, global warming will hit and we'll all be dead.
And with that, we'll leave you with this week's Really Big Fan Podcast. You can, of course, check us out on all the social media at Really Big Fan Pod. Was it on Instagram? We have 69 followers?
Yes, we have 69 followers. Nice.
So don't follow us on Instagram because we have 69. We want to keep that number. Follow us on Twitter. Follow us on Facebook.
Unless you want us to be 1,600 and 69,000.
If you, and I can't do the math quickly, but if you and like 6,899 friends want to join, then please bring all the people.
We also do have, now it's even easier to access us from Instagram. Instagram just released a new feature where we can add up to 5 links. So now you should be able to, if anytime you see us, like we're going live, go in and just hit that link button once and it'll give you all 5 links, and then you can click directly to Twitch. It'll make it a lot easier for everybody to watch.
Excellent. And you can find me streaming video games, and sometimes you'll stream video games.
Yep.
Once I'm still waiting for you. Like, you've been playing Tony Hawk like a mother for the last couple of weeks. I'm waiting for you to decide that you feel confident enough to stream it.
Yes, I will be streaming. I kind of needed to remind myself where some stuff was and work through some problems, because I want to make sure I'm not boring you guys with like the learning curve of remembering certain things.
Right.
But I think I'm going to do my fake speed run, as you don't like me calling it.
Because it's not a speed
It's
run.
not a speed run, but I'm going to go through. I'm going to start from the beginning and play it on the stream and see how far I get. So I'm going to try to do that. It's probably not going to be this week just because of all the 420 shenanigans.
I swear at some point I'll be done with Breath of the Wild and I'll stream something else on the channel. But until then, you can find me streaming usually on Mondays, at the very least, over at Really Big Fan Pod on Twitch. You can also find us on Patreon if you want to contribute and help us afford to be able to bring this to you every week. And I believe I even put a donate button at the bottom of the Twitch page now. So if you want to throw a donation, you don't want to subscribe to Patreon or something like that, it is there. We'll be back next week with another really big fan pod. We're setting up an interview as we speak for that particular one. We'll talk to you then. And until then, have yourself a fantastic week.